I took the trainee program in EIL. That was my first encounter with refineries, with petrochemical plants, with offshore. And initially it was very intimidating because I couldn't understand a single thing. I talk to some youngsters these days. They are always looking for new opportunities outside to what they are doing.
Creating a competency vacuum because they jump that quick, so they cannot learn something.
We have this Indian mindset that you perform well, somebody is going to notice you, somebody is going to drag you up.
Any bias or stereotypes that you might have faced during this journey?
Yeah, I think the industry is I mean, from my perspective, it is still male dominated. If you look at statistics, there is this optimism bias in the industry, be it deliveries, be it exploration, be it whatever, and I think that is something that we need to work on as well, that things are not as optimistic as.
This is the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show, where we are going to invite industry leaders to talk about their journeys and also technologies of tomorrow in an effort to break some of the biases that might have formed around this energy industry. Hello, everyone. I hope you are happy and healthy. I'm Ananja, and you are listening to the Oil and Gas Breaking Bias show. Today, I'm happy and excited because we will be joined by my ex-ABB colleague, Swarandeep Singh, a veteran in the energy industry with 3 decades of experience. He has started his journey from Engineers India Limited and later took diverse roles at ABB, from engineering operation to strategy. Beyond his technical competence, he always rises above to challenge bias and create a healthy workplace. So with that, let's deep dive into his inspiring journey. Welcome, Swarandeep. It's an honor to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Pleased to be here. I don't think we have met many times during my stay at ABB, but nevertheless, I'm quite happy to see you again here.
Definitely. We connected once in a while, but we never had a chance to talk about my journey or your journey. So here is a platform where we can discuss more. So thank you so much for taking your time and talk about your journey, and which is, as I said, like it's across 3 different decades. So without wasting any other minute, I will really appreciate if you can walk us through your professional and personal journey and any of the biases that you might have came across.
So, as you mentioned, I have been in the industry for more than 30 years now, and I started in India. I was an average dude in the school, although I did excel in the university, and I did my bachelor's in electronics instrumentation from Thapar University, and there I was able to excel. I think there were 25 students in the class, and I was the topper there. So somehow I got interested in studying when I joined the university. And as soon as I passed, I took the trainee program in EIL. So I joined there as a trainee in the instrument department. And suddenly I was in the middle of huge projects, oil and gas projects. That was my first encounter with refineries, with petrochemical plants, with offshore. And initially, it was very intimidating because I couldn't understand a single thing. First 3-4 months, it was absolute chaos. They were talking about things that I have never heard in my life.
Definitely. Coming from college and
Coming from
taking
college,
that
exactly.
big
And
opportunity.
suddenly, I started to feel that all that I learned in the university suddenly seems of no use. It was completely different world there. But slowly, as I stepped into the role, I got into a project. I got some people coaching me, mentoring me, and suddenly I got the hang of it, the feel of it. And after few years, some of the stuff that I have learned in the university, I could apply it, and that was a nice thing to feel. So I worked there for about 6-7 years, and the interesting thing in EIL is that back in those days when they were building uh, refineries and petrochemical plants and offshore plants, there were a lot of equipment which were purchased from outside of India.
Yes.
Today, eh, I think almost 80-90% of equipment is manufactured in India. Back in the 90s, that was not the case. So we were procuring a lot of instrumentation items from abroad, from all over the globe. And then, as you know, there are factory acceptance tests or design reviews, so on and so forth. So there was a lot of movement from EIL instruments department to outside vendors.
Yes.
Visiting their factories or visiting. So a lot of my colleagues would visit these places, and due to those associations, there was a lot of people from EIL who would leave EIL instruments department and join
The global
a
companies.
company in a company in Malaysia or a company in
Yes.
Middle East or a company in US. Typically EPC companies like you know Kellogg's and some
Uh-huh.
of these companies. So a lot of our friends left and they joined these companies. And one of my seniors, he joined a company in Malaysia called MMC Oil and Gas. And one fine morning, he just called me and he said, "Hey, Swarandeep, what are you doing these days?" And I said, "I'm still in instruments." But he said, "Would you like to join MMC in Malaysia?" And I said, "Hmm, that sounds like interesting. Working Kuala Lumpur, outside of India. Yeah, why not?" And that was the start of my journey outside of India.
Outside India. Just to ask you, like I think 90s were really exciting in India. The economy was getting open and lots of new
Yes,
investments. So really
right.
must be very exciting times.
Yes, it was. There was a lot of, build up of
Mhm.
facilities, new petrochemical plants. I was working on a big petrochemical plant, which was set up by IPCL. So this Indian Petrochemicals Corporation Limited, this company does not exist anymore because
Mm.
it was then taken over by Reliance. And so, yeah, there was a lot of activity, huge activity, and a lot of movement of people from EIL to places like Malaysia, like Middle East, like US. And then also it gave me an opportunity to experience how things are outside of India. So
Definitely.
this was back in '97 that I left EIL and I joined this company called MMC Oil and Gas. And there I was part of again an instruments group. My friend was there, so I had a head start there. He introduced me to all the right people. I got absorbed in a project, in an offshore project as the lead instrument engineer. But things were different. They were quite different. They were following some of these shell standards which were there. I had no experience about those. Again, quite intimidating to start with.
But that's also about making yourself uncomfortable in those situations.
Yes, yes, exactly. So
Yes.
I was living alone in an apartment, sharing it with few other Indians, and they were actually working in IT industry,
Mhm.
nothing to do with oil and gas or hydrocarbons or engineering. And so, again, I was kind of alone in that environment because those 4 or 5 guys, they were always talking about IT and how IT is booming. And then I was there, okay, whom should I talk to? So I spent an year and a half there, and then came this financial crisis. If you remember, there was this Asian financial crisis in 1998. The currency went down the
Yes.
drain. Everyone started to panic.
Uh-huh.
People started to leave Malaysia. And during those times, yeah, I also started to think, okay, how long can I stay there? Maybe I should make a move and find something else to do. And guess what? Some of these networks, these contacts came into play. And I suddenly got a call from an old acquaintance in ABB Norway, and he asked me if I am interested to work with ABB in Norway. And I thought, yeah, I need to leave this place anyway. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
said, yes, why not?
Good opportunity, definitely.
Good opportunity, yeah.
Yeah.
So I packed my bag and flew into Oslo. That was back in June of '98. And the
And you're
reason
still there.
they and the reason they joined me or they called me was because they were building a new division
Mhm.
around terminals and pipelines, and I had certain competence in that area. So they invited me to join this team there, and that was a bit exciting because those things I knew, those things I had a grip on. ABB was still developing this organization, still developing this products and solutions around that. So I could contribute. So this was a bit different to my position in EIL or in MMC, where I was a bit intimidated.
Yeah.
But here I was quite comfortable. And so I joined this department, few people initially, but suddenly the department grew and we
Yes.
started to work here. We started to create some software products, started to pursue some projects. We got some projects, things became exciting, and so on and so forth. So this was the start of my journey here in Norway about 26, 27 years ago. And, over the years, I have had the opportunity of working in different parts of ABB, in sales, in service, in projects, in software development, in operations, managing departments. And that has been absolutely fantastic for me because I see when I talk to some youngsters these days, they are always looking for new opportunities
Yes.
outside to what they are doing.
Yes.
So the span of stay at a particular company is not more than 2, 3 years.
And
They jump.
that is also creating a competency vacuum because they jump that quick, so they cannot learn something. They cannot have that deep knowledge of anything. And
Yeah, that too.
that's what we see
That too.
today.
That too. And so I was quite fortunate to have these opportunities inside ABB, and that drove me to keep loyal to the company. So I've been working there for almost 25, 26 years and have had the opportunity to do some fantastic work. I've been involved in some pioneering project like Sadara Petrochemicals or the most recently the BASF
In China.
Zhanjiang project,
Yes.
which has really enhanced my capacities, my capabilities, my knowledge, my experience, and also given me opportunity to experience a lot of different cultures across different regions. I've spent time in Saudi Arabia. I've spent time in China. I've done some projects in Romania. I've done even a project in Sakhalin Islands in Russia. So it has been absolutely fantastic working at ABB.
And that's amazing. And you hit lots of points. Like the first point, you talked about making yourself uncomfortable. When it's needed, either coming from the college or moving from India to Malaysia. And then also you mentioned about mentorship and networking. Like can you talk a little bit more about it? Like how it helped you to shape your life. I won't just focus on career, but you as an individual.
Yeah, so I think if I look back all these years, I would say everyone needs a helping hand. And mentors, network is very important. It is more important in these days, these times. And I have been fortunate to have developed this network, to have developed these relationships early on in my career, which has helped me. But then again, you need to keep growing this. And I think that is something which I realized quite late in my career that, you need to grow this network. You need to grow these relationships, which when I came to Norway, we have this Indian mindset that you perform well, somebody is going to notice you, and then,
Yes.
he's going to drag you up.
I know that's exactly how I started in India. Like if I will do excellent, somebody will notice
Yeah.
me, and one day they will offer me
Yeah.
some job.
Yes, exactly. I think that is a big fallacy. I would say. I have learned from it, and I think the sooner somebody gets over it, the better it is for them. So
Yes.
it is quite important to have these networks, these sponsorships available. You need to nurture them. You need to find them. You need to nurture them to make sure that in addition to your capabilities, competencies, you have this support structure who can help you advance your career.
And during this journey, because you also mentioned not just about your job, but you have executed projects in Saudi Arabia, Russia, in China. Any bias or stereotypes that you might have faced during this journey?
Yeah, I think the industry is, I mean, from my perspective, it is still male dominated.
Mhm.
If you see, if you look at statistics, I think that it's only about 20% or so, 15, 20% females in this industry. But that depends on the region. When I was in China, I think the females were, you know, standing head to head with the males in China. But in some other parts of the world, like in Saudi Arabia, for example, I
Yes,
think almost
it's
negligible.
different.
But
Yes.
that is changing. That is changing now. I would say that is changing now. But it is still, I think it is still, uh, not at a level where we would like it
Yes,
to be.
it's a long way to go,
Yeah,
especially for the senior leadership and also the people in operation. Like sometimes we see female in marketing, sales, but not on the tools
exactly.
itself. So I think
Yeah.
it's a long way to go. That connects us to my next question. Actually, and you already touched something on it. Like in long journey, this industry, like the energy industry as a whole, has seen many cycles. But where do you see this industry is going towards now? and any challenges, opportunity that we should be aware of?
Yeah, the industry, as you said, you have these business cycles, and there is this huge, giant wheel kind of a thing, a flywheel called decarbonization,
Yes.
which is now, you know, being talked about all over. And some oil and gas majors are transforming themselves to be energy companies rather than oil and gas companies. And some are successful, some are not so successful.
Yes.
So it's a mixed kind of a response here. But nevertheless, I think climate change is impacting our industry. Decarbonization is impacting our industry. We do no longer call it oil and gas; we call it energy
Energy
industry,
industry now, yes.
right? So
Yes.
there is this aspect, and I think a lot of youngsters, probably fewer years ago, were going away from the industry, in the sense that there were very few youngsters opting for petroleum engineering, for instance, very few geologists being coming out. But I think that is again changing a bit, because we still need oil, we still need gas, we still need chemicals. So there is a future definitely in the industry. We need more talent, we need more skilled people in the industry, and we need to improve our operations so that we do not pollute the atmosphere, we don't treat it as a free sewer, and make sure that the oil and gas that we produce in future is more climate friendly. So that requires a lot of innovation, a lot of technologies to be implemented, to be applied. And I think there is a huge opportunity for anyone listening and opting for a career in this industry.
No, I can echo the same sentiments. This industry has gone through many cycles, but one thing is true: it's not going anywhere. It's always transform itself. And Soren, they've already mentioned about few of the things like decarbonization, energy change, new technologies. So there's lots of things are happening in this industry. So if you're listening, being a part of this change, and if you're already part of this industry, then there are lots of opportunities to explore. That's great. Let's go back to your career and your story. Like that's starting from India to Malaysia, and also working in different part of the world. But if you have given a chance to relive your life, what changes you might make?
I think if I look back, I touched upon one of these sponsorship things, having some mentor or network developed early in my career that could have helped me in the later phases. Definitely, I would not just sit back and do a good job and hope that somebody is going to look at me. You need to be
I,
a little bit. I think the other part is I would say take more chances. I was quite, not taking the kind of chances I should have. There have been few opportunities which came my way, which were a little bit out of the box. And what happens is that, of course, you get married, you have children, you settle down, and then your focus changes to a more stable, predictable
Yes, yes.
future. Then you are not really challenging yourself to take those opportunities.
Then limits your professional growth.
Exactly, exactly. I would say maybe if I would have taken one or other opportunity that came by, things would have been different. So I evaluate those opportunities which come by you on their merit. Of course, you have stuff around family, and I think those things can be worked out. But don't just let them pass by for one reason or the other. Give them a critical thought.
Oh, makes sense. Makes sense. So at least evaluate and reevaluate, yeah, like those opportunities. And sometimes we don't know like all the in and outs of each and every role. So
Exactly.
that's why give a thought, and maybe, and I think that will also I will also go back to mentors or network. Sometimes you don't know everything, but maybe you can reach out to mentors and in your network to get little bit visibility and
Exactly. Yes.
get
Yes.
some
Yes.
thoughts from them, because they might have gone through that cycle of change
Yeah.
by
So
themselves.
if I would have had those speaking partners available at that point in time, I could have bounced off those
Yes,
ideas
yes,
to
yes,
them and get some additional insights or points which I would have missed
yes.
taking into consideration, right?
That's
So that is quite an important aspect of your career. Yeah.
Definitely, and regarding this topic, you talk about opportunities and also bouncing your idea with mentors and network. How do you see, like when you were at ABB, like how do you see the exchange of those ideas?
In the sense,
Like
inside ABB?
people reaching out to you, like people reaching out to you, or maybe you are part of some of those similar groups, to
Yeah, so
discuss.
as you know, it's a big group, and the company has also changed over the years. A lot of changes. The organization, the structure, it has undergone significant changes since the time I joined
Yes.
back in 1998. And generally, people are receptive
Hmm.
to discussions. I think generally people are available to have these kind of conversations.
Yes.
But formally, I think it was only a few years ago that there was a kind of a mentorship program launched inside ABB where you could actually have a kind of a formal, mentor in
Understood.
the organization, and then have these deeper conversations
Makes
with
sense.
them.
Makes sense. And that
Because
can
otherwise
change.
it was quite ad hoc, based
Yeah,
on.
you're right. You're right. So, like the point I'm making here, like either it's ABB or any other company, there are some
Yeah,
resources
yeah,
available, like with official channel, and sometimes you just reach out to the people. And what I have
yes,
seen in my experience, most of the time people are very receptive.
yeah,
Like
they are.
I had really positive experience. Like I also reach out to people within the organization, outside the organization, and most of the successful people are very open to discuss their journey. So no, that's sometimes we have a hesitation. Like sometimes we
Yeah,
discount ourselves
yes,
reaching out to somebody.
that
But
is
as I
true. That
mentioned,
is true.
most of
That
the
is
time
true.
those brings really
Yeah,
positive experience for me. And Sorandeep is also talking about the same thing. So that's great. So with that, that brings us to our very exciting section of our
yeah.
discussion today. It is rapid fire round.
Okay.
And let's see how can you handle those questions. So whatever comes up in your mind, like it could be one or two words answer, or it could be one sentence or two sentence. So let's see how you can take those questions, Sandeep. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay. So let me ask you the first thing. First thing you do before a big presentation.
Make sure I'm dressed properly.
That's a really good point. Like I do the same thing for myself, So I always try to dress properly.
I honestly, what I do is I dress up properly. I make a selfie, send it to my wife, and she sends me a thumbs up, and then I'm ready.
And definitely, and that's also bring your confidence. Like how you
Yes.
look, how you talk. That makes a big difference. That's great, and I could connect with it. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
One word to describe your journey so far.
Exciting.
Exciting. I can say that. Like you have done many different roles, worked different part of the world, so it must be exciting. I can say that. Okay, let me ask another question. Hard hat or headset? What's more your style now?
Hard hat. I like to read. And so of course, you find a lot of these audiobooks and podcasts and all, but I still somehow find reading books much more fulfilling than listening to whatever. Of course, I listen to songs and stuff,
Yes, yes, yes.
surely,
But not the
but
books.
not the books, yeah.
Not the books.
For some reason, I am not so tuned into audiobooks. Don't know why, but that's how it is.
Favorite engineering tool that you might miss today?
I like these slide rules. You remember these slide rulers?
Yes, yes, yes.
You could, and they were always quite amazing, especially because they were, made in Germany or made in Japan or something. I mean, they were just fantastic.
Yes. but
And
but
they,
but, but things have changed a lot. Yes.
yes, yes, now you have calculators and you have AI and
Yeah.
ChatGPT and all that stuff. But I still, I if I would have it, I would still like to use it.
But like last two question, then it must be also talking about the age. Because same thing here. Like same thing. I want to like when you talk about the books, I also want to touch, and same thing like some other tools. Yeah, that feels like you are in control when you use those tools.
Sometimes you do miss them because I think with all these computing technologies and you know all the support tools that we have, probably we are writing less, reading less, And personally, I think it's not good. It's not
Definitely.
good. I was always complimented for my handwriting. If you there are still teachers from my school who are still alive, and whenever I go back to India, sometimes I take the time to meet them. And some of them are so old that they have forgotten my name, but they still remember that I had a very good handwriting.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, so it goes long way, definitely.
It goes long way, yes.
It goes long way. Norway or India? Where did you learn more?
I would say Norway because I spent more time more time in Norway. And
That
from a professional perspective, of course, I grew up in India, and some of the values that I have comes from India. It comes from my family, from my parents, and so from a person who I am. That is mostly shaped my time in India.
definitely. And last question: one Punjabi dish that gets you through a day, through a tough day, I will say, through a tough day.
I am, or the whole household is quite fond of khichdi.
Khichdi, okay.
Yes,
It's okay. Khichdi.
yeah. For some reason, it's easy to make.
Yes.
It was the first thing that I learned when I relocated to China because could not eat outside uh, all the days. So that was the first thing I learned, and I was becoming quite expert in that.
It's also healthy, quick to
Yeah,
make,
it's
and
also healthy, and,
it's also
and it
healthy.
is very quick to make. And then you can garnish it with some ghee and fried onions or some other stuff, and it tastes quite good.
And that's amazing. And last not the least, what's most underrated leadership quality that you can think of?
I think empathy is probably quite underrated. We need leaders who empathize with their team.
Hmm.
I think we don't see that enough. We are all occupied with numbers and strategies and all these mechanical things. I think post COVID probably there is a need to be more human centric when it comes to leadership, which probably means be courageous, build confidence in your team, practice compassion, and also be committed. I think probably these are the four key characteristics.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Actually, like you talk about empathy, sometimes we see empathy as a weakness, but it's not weakness. Can be your strength.
I would take it as a strength, not a weakness. Yeah.
That's amazing. So this rapid fire help us to know more about you,
I
and
hope
and and and,
I
and few
hope
things
it
I
did.
can connect very well about the books and things you have talked about that getting better dressed for your big day or presentation. So I think
What about the khichdi? Do you like that or?
I like khichdi, but not a big fan. No,
Okay, okay.
no, no.
So which Punjabi dish you had in mind? Probably you were expecting a different answer, right?
No, like all Punjabi dishes are good. So I enjoy all of them. I enjoy all of
I'm
them.
not even sure if khichdi is a Punjabi dish, but
It's,
we make it a lot,
yeah, I know. Like we all make it a lot, especially in North India. So yeah, no, that's great. So I know we're running out of time, but I still have two question, actually two follow-up question. One about just to summarize everything. If we have to give one takeaway for somebody who's looking to make a career or business in this energy industry, what that would be?
I would say be self-aware, observe, reflect, and integrate. Things change quite fast these days. The geopolitics is such, the technology is such. It is quite different to back in the old days when I started. Things have become very agile, and so it's important that you keep pace with the change. You tune yourself to adapt in this changing world. In this changing world, in these uncertainties around this changing world, I think that is quite important.
That's quite important. No, that's a good point. You made a really good point. And then I have a follow up question. Like we already talked about the bias in the industry. You already talked about the female leadership, but anything else that comes up in your mind? It could be within the industry or towards industry.
I think we are also quite optimistic when it comes to, now I'm talking about projects a little bit, right? So there is this optimism bias in the industry, be it deliveries, be it exploration, be it whatever, and I think that is something that we need to work on as well, that things are not as optimistic as
It's better to be optimistic, but also need to be realistic.
really realistic. Yeah.
I can see it. I can see that. Like, and you and I have seen, like, normally we see lots of delays in decision making, and then end of the day,
Yes.
everything goes back to the execution team to meet all those
To meet all.
deadlines,
Yes.
tight
Yes.
deadlines.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
no, we have a long way to come over that challenge or bias, that is still existing in
You
the
are right.
industry. No, that's great. So thank you so much for your time, Sandeep. I really enjoyed all the conversation, and hopefully this won't be our last conversation.
I
Definitely, we
mutual
should talk
feelings,
more.
Anand. I also enjoyed this. I think this is my second podcast, if I am honest with you. And yeah, I have seen few of these, but I think you are doing a good job on these podcasts. And so all the best to you. And definitely we'll connect again and maybe discuss some other topics.
Definitely. So with that, I will sign off for today. Keep listening. Oil and Gas Making by Show. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.